All right, people, we've got just a couple things we want to look at here for a few minutes. I will try to make this as quick as possible, even though I know that you all love ed puzzles more than anything. I'll try to go quick here. There are a couple basic facts that we need to get on the same page with before we look at this lesson. First thing, and you reviewed this in the first big ideas that you did. When we have a power that is raised to another power, our power of a power rule means that we are multiplying those exponents. So that would be the same as saying 10 to the 10th power. Or not 10, sorry. I was thinking of 10. X2 times 5, x to the 10th power. Now, let's think about it in the other direction as well. If you get this, this will help with what we're looking at today. Let's say I gave you x to the 15th. If we go backwards, start here, if we go backwards, you could write this as x to the 3rd to the 5th, or x to the 5th to the 3rd. We would say those mean the same things because, 5 times 3 gives us 15. So if we get the fact that I just went through in orange, great. If you got what I went through in yellow, even better. You're a step ahead for today. Fact number 2 that we need to have for today. When we have the cube root of 8, or if we have 8 to the 1/3, remember that means we're looking for what number we can multiply by itself 3 times to get 8. Well, 2 times 2 times 2 would give me 8, so the cube root of 8 is 2. In the same way, if we have 8 to the 1/3, that's asking what number can we multiply by itself 3 times to get 8? Well, again, that answer there would be 2. Last fact, and I kind of looked at it here with this second example. When we have something, the square root of something, square root, we don't write it, but there's really a 2 right here, the square root. And when there's a 3, that's the cube root. Here we have a square root. Just like the cube root of 8 is the same thing as 8 to the 1/3, the square root of x is the same thing as x to the 1/2. Those two things are the exact same. There's a little 1 right here that we don't write but is there. There's a 2 here. We put the 2 under the 1, x to the 1/2. So if you got those 2 facts, or those 3 facts, excuse me, then we'll refer back to those. Those will be helpful for today. Now, if you're taking notes, this is absolutely what I would write down right here. A to the m over n. And we're going to look at a couple different ways that we can write this, or any exponent that looks like this. The first way that we could write it is we always keep the same numbers, but we could rewrite this as a to the 1 over n to the m power. We know that we multiply exponents. When we have a power to another power, we multiply exponents. So 1 over n times m would just give me that right back. There's one way that we can rewrite this exponent in another form. Another way that we can write it looks like this. A to the m power under the square root of n. Kind of like we looked at up here in this example right up here. If we had x to the 1/2, that is the exact same thing as saying the square root of x. We take this, put it around the outside, and we add the square root. We take the denominator and move it. All 3 of these things, I know this is confusing, but I'd be sure to have this written down. All 3 of these things mean the exact same thing. So what you're going to be looking at today is they're going to give you a number, or they're going to give you a variable that's to an exponent, and you're going to have to write down that number or that variable in another form, or you're going to have to simplify it. So like with this first example, we've got 16 to the 3/4. Well, I don't know what 16 to the 3/4 is off the top of my head, so I'm going to rewrite it as 16 to the 1/4 to the 3rd power. Well, I think about what number can I multiply 4 times, 16 to the 1/4, which remember would be the same thing as saying the 4th root of 16. Those would both be the exact same. What number can I multiply 4 times to get 16? Well, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. 2 to the 3rd, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2, this would give me 8. So I can simplify something that looks a little confusing like that by rewriting it and then applying the exponents. Let's look at the same idea here. I have 27 to the 4/3. Well, I don't know what that is off the top of my head, so I'm going to rewrite that as 27 to the 1/3 to the 4th power. Remember, this would be the exact same thing as saying the cube root of 27 to the 4th power. Well, the cube root of 27, or 27 to the 1/3, what can I multiply 3 times by itself to get 27? 3. What's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3? Well, that would be 81. Let's look at 2 more examples. Here, we're just taking things with square roots, and notice that these are very similar problems. One has the negative inside the square root, one has the negative outside, or the cube root, not the square root. First, we have the cube root of -8. Well, it's asking, what can I multiply by itself 3 times to get a -8? This would be the same thing as saying -8 to the 1/3. And I put the 1/3 on the outside of the parentheses just because that's negative. That negative is there. So, -2 times -2, that would give me a +8, or +4, times -2 would give me a -8. So -2 would be my answer. Now here, the negative is on the outside of the cube root, so this would be the same thing as saying -8 to the 1/3. So the negative is out here. Now I'm saying, what can I multiply by itself 3 times to get +8? 2 times 2 times 2. And that answer also would be -2. So again, in your homework today, you're going to be looking at, let me clean this up a little. You're going to be looking at applying this rule right here, which I know I didn't look a ton at, but you're going to be looking at applying this rule. Well, where's my laser pointer? There it is. You're going to be looking at applying this rule here, at rewriting things. You're also going to be looking at examples that look like these with trying to simplify some things. So both things are what you'll be looking at. I will build on this tomorrow, answer questions tomorrow. We'll have some time to look at it again and practice it together. But if we can get those couple things for today, then you'll be all set.